Hello there. By the end of this year or early next year, the global population number is set to hit 8 billion souls, but it's not all that it seems. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe and then like and comment below. And why not buy a mug with my mug on it? So here's a great statistic for the climate alarmists to scare you with. By the end of this year, it is projected that the human population of the world will have hit 8 billion people and is on course to hit 10 billion by the 2060s, according to the United Nations. Putting the fear in people's heads of an exponential rise in the numbers of people on the planet and fears that we'll see 15 billion and 20 billion soon afterwards, only ever accelerating upwards, followed by the terror put out there of food and energy shortages as well as warfare over basics such as water. But it's not quite like that. None of these eco-warriors tell you what the projections are for after the 2060s. Because the world's population is not increasing at an exponential rate. Population growth is slowing by the year and has been doing so for years. To the point that about half the countries around the world right now have falling population numbers. Yes, falling. And the oft-quoted UN projection that the global population will hit 10 billion by the 2060s is the peak. Because the UN projection they quote is a median line projection that goes beyond the 2060s, and that projection shows the population growth trend then starting to reverse and head into decline. Yes, by the end of the century, we could well be looking at fewer people on the planet every single year. And what comes with that is declining water usage, declining energy needs, less food required to feed everyone. You get the picture. Now, many will say that's a good thing, let's have more of it. But you have to understand the reason for that population decline. It's down to a worldwide falling birth rate. Yes, we are approaching the point where globally we will no longer be having a sufficient number of babies to replace ourselves. The population decline will be led by the young in society. That means, as the oldest in society live longer, the fewer workers there will be to produce the food, the goods and the services we need for everybody. Unless we get people to work from a younger age and keep them in work for longer. And as the world population declines, the most valuable asset will be young, strong workers. And those young, strong workers will follow the money. If they are physically allowed to do that, that is. You don't have to believe what I'm saying here. Just get onto your favourite search engine and look up what is known as the total fertility rate, or TFR, for any country, and that will tell you all you need to know. A TFR of 2.11 is considered as the replacement level in any developed area of the world, taking account of infant mortality. But the replacement rate can be over 3 where there is high infant mortality, for example. Now that TFR of 2.11 means that if on average every female in a developed country with net zero immigration has 2.11 babies throughout their lifetime, then the population will remain at just about the same level indefinitely. Disregarding immigration and changes in mortality, a number higher than 2.11 means an increasing population size, and below 2.11 will mean the population numbers will decline. Here's a few random countries with their associated TFRs. Japan, 1.36, Switzerland, 1.48, Austria, 1.46, Italy, 1.27, Eritrea, 4, China, 1.7, Pakistan, 3.45, India, 2.2, USA 1.7, UK 1.65. A couple of those, like China, may have surprised you. With China, the one baby per family policy to curb previous population growth has now proved far too successful, and China is already feeling the repercussions, and attempts are being made to reverse it. And here is a list of the top 10 countries by projected population decline, put together by visualcapitalist.com in July this year. Between 2020 and 2050, Bulgaria is projected to see a population decline of 22.5%. Lithuania, minus 22.1%. Latvia, minus 21.6%. Ukraine, minus 19.5%, and that's without the war. Serbia, minus 18.9%. Bosnia and Herzegovina, minus 18.2%. Croatia, minus 18%. Moldova, minus 16.7%. Japan, minus 16.3%. Albania, minus 15.8%. All by 2050. And as that last one, Albania, shows, some of those countries will also be suffering from net outward migration, something we in the UK are well aware of because we're on the other end of it. Now, looking at the UK, at 1.65 our TFR is too low for replacement, and it's been below 2 since 1974. But the population is rising quite fast, and the two drivers there are a combination of the elderly staying alive for much longer than previously and net inward migration. Without those two, our population would actually be falling. Yes, falling. But if it were falling, we would have too few fit young workers. Now, the natural way to address that would be to procreate, but that is not happening in the UK. And there are many theories as to why that would be. Some linked to what's in the water, others to what's being put in the air, and others put it down to recent medical interventions. Here's what the BBC said in 2018 about this situation, where there would be profound consequences for societies with more grandparents than grandchildren. Going on to say, the fall in fertility rate is not down to sperm counts or any of the things that normally come to mind when thinking of fertility. Instead, it is being put down to 3 key factors: fewer deaths in childhood, meaning women have fewer babies; greater access to contraception; more women in education and work. In many ways, says the BBC, falling fertility rates are a success story. To put it bluntly, young people in the UK generally either don't want children or will have just one child. And nothing on earth is now going to change that. And I do wonder if this is part of the drive to socialise elderly care, because more and more people don't have children who could help them in older age, so the taxpayer has to find the people and the money to do it instead. But whatever the cause, to offset fewer babies being born in the UK, we are importing people to fill the gaps. So whether you think it a good thing or a bad thing, it should come as no surprise to you that there is a steady increase in foreign-born people in the UK, as well as children born of foreign-born mothers. And the police, the NHS and other public services will need to employ more and more of them over time. There is no getting away from it. It cannot be avoided unless people in the UK start living like humans again and having families. Oh, now that's controversial, isn't it? But having children obviously has no attraction to the majority of the younger end of our population these days. It seems it cannot compete with uni, gap years, parties, holidays, or striving for the top high-paying job, etc. Why would someone take the physical pain and emotional roller coaster by choice these days? Not until it gets physiologically too late anyway, and regret sets in for some. And it's not helped by a woke culture that seems intent on driving men and women apart. Now, as far as I can tell, this type of society is a globalist's wet dream, and they're on the verge of completing their plans because they've known all along that demographics is king. And we may well be too late to the party.